The night before the surgery, the hospital room was silent except for the beeping of machines and the ticking of a clock that seemed louder than thunder. Liam Spencer sat alone in the dim light, his eyes red but dry. He stared at the camera on his phone, hesitating before he pressed record. He wasn't used to goodbyes. Not like this. This wasn't just a farewell. It was a confession. A message to his daughter, Beth, in case he didn't make it through the surgery. He started talking. No rehearsals, no second takes. Just the truth. "Hi, sweetheart," he said softly, forcing a small smile. "If you're watching this, I'm probably not around anymore." His voice cracked, but he pushed forward. "I want you to know how much I love you. How proud I am to be your dad. You changed everything for me. You gave me purpose. You gave me peace. And I need you to keep that with you. Every time you feel scared or alone, remember, I'm there. I'm right there in your heart. And I always will be." Across town, Dr. Grace Buckingham was hunched over a lab bench. She wasn't sleeping. She hadn't in days. Ever since Liam's diagnosis, she'd thrown herself into every test, every report, every possible treatment. The surgery was scheduled for 7 a.m. sharp. The tumor, located in a delicate area of Liam's brain, was growing fast, and all indicators pointed to malignancy. There was no time left. Or so they thought. Then it happened. A routine double-check. One test result didn't match. She frowned, pulled the sample, reran the test. The result came back different. Wildly different. Grace stared at the screen, heart pounding. Another test. And another. Suddenly, the terrifying truth snapped into focus. The initial diagnosis, the one that triggered the emergency surgery, had been based on corrupted data. The tumor might not be malignant. It could be benign. Operable, yes, but not life-threatening. Not unless they cut into it. She staggered back from the monitor. Her stomach dropped. The operating room had already been prepped. The team was ready. Liam was being prepped for surgery. She grabbed her tablet and sprinted. In the hallway outside the OR, Hope and Steffi were sitting on opposite sides of the waiting area, not speaking, both staring blankly ahead. Bill was pacing like a caged animal, shouting into his phone. Ridge tried to keep everyone calm, but even he looked shaken. Then came Grace. Bursting through the double doors, breathless, panicked, calling out for the lead surgeon. "Stop the procedure," she yelled. "We may have made a mistake." But it was too late. The scalpel was down. The cut had been made. In that instant, everything changed. The surgical team froze. The lead surgeon looked confused, then furious, demanding answers. Grace began explaining, data streaming from her tablet, but the incision had been done. They were inside Liam's brain. There was no turning back. All they could do now was proceed carefully and hope for the best. Grace was ushered into a side room. Administrators were already involved. The possibility of malpractice loomed. Someone had signed off on the wrong pathology report. Someone had cleared a surgery that may not have been necessary. But this wasn't about lawsuits or policy violations, not yet. This was about Liam. About whether he would survive what had just happened to him. Inside the OR, the team worked with surgical precision, careful not to touch areas that could damage Liam's motor functions or memory. It became immediately clear that the tumor was indeed encapsulated, not invasive. Everything Grace feared was now confirmed. The tumor didn't need to be removed. But now that they had opened his skull, they couldn't just leave it either. They had to proceed, carefully resecting the mass and hoping not to trigger a fatal hemorrhage. Back in the waiting room, no one knew any of this yet. Hope sensed something was off. "Where's Grace?" she asked. "Why did she run in like that?" Bill tried to ask the nurse, but she said nothing. "He's my son," he barked. Somebody tell me what's going on. Steffi stood up, moving closer to Hope, tension rising between them. Did you know about this? She asked. Hope shook her head. Of course not. Why would I? It wasn't until nearly 4 hours later that the lead surgeon emerged, exhausted and grim. Liam made it through the surgery, he said. Everyone exhaled. But there were complications. And there's something else you all need to know. They were ushered into a conference room. Grace was there. So were the hospital board members. And then the truth came out. The misdiagnosis. The corrupted data. The unnecessary urgency of the procedure. Hope collapsed into a chair, her face pale. Bill slammed his hand on the table, eyes wide with fury. You opened up my son's head for nothing? Grace stood her ground. We had every reason to believe it was malignant. All indicators supported the conclusion. But I caught the mistake. And I tried to stop it. Tried? Bill shouted. He's lying in there with a hole in his skull, and you tried? Ridge stepped in. Enough. This isn't helping him. Then, softly to Grace. Will he recover? That was the question no one could answer yet. Liam spent the next few days in the ICU, monitored around the clock, intubated, sedated. Grace visited every hour, checking his vitals herself. The guilt was eating her alive. She hadn't made the original error, but she'd trusted the process. She hadn't caught it sooner. Hope sat beside Liam every day, clutching his hand, whispering to him. She played the video he recorded for Beth, not for Beth to hear, but to remind herself what was at stake. Don't you dare leave her, she said. Don't you dare leave me. Steffi came too, late at night, after the others were gone. She sat quietly, brushing Liam's hair back, telling him stories about Kelly. She made a drawing for you, she whispered. Said you're her hero, so don't make a liar out of her. Then came the turning point. On day 5, Liam moved. Just a twitch of his hand. But it was enough. Monitors beeped. Nurses rushed in. Grace was called. She ran every test. The brain was responding. The swelling was down. He was stable enough to reduce sedation. Hours later, his eyes opened. Confused, blurry, but awake. Hope was there. So was Bill. So was Grace. She stepped forward, explaining gently what had happened. Liam blinked, absorbing the words. So, I didn't need the surgery, he asked, voice hoarse. No, Grace admitted. But we did it. And you survived. He looked at Hope. Then at Bill. Then back to Grace. Then let's make it mean something, he whispered. In the days that followed, Liam's recovery was slow but steady. He regained full cognitive function. Physically, he was weaker but improving. Emotionally, he was shattered. He demanded the full story. Every detail. Grace didn't sugarcoat it. It was my responsibility to catch the error. I didn't. I'm sorry. Liam stared at her. I should be angry, he said. But I'm just tired. Hope stayed close, but Steffi visited often. The triangle reignited. Not in romance, but in raw emotional tension. Each of them had nearly lost him. Each of them blamed themselves. But only Liam had the right to decide what came next. The aftermath didn't end there. The hospital launched an investigation. Grace faced disciplinary action but was cleared of intentional wrongdoing. The tech responsible for the corrupted data was fired. Policies were changed. Liam, now a symbol of survival and medical failure, became the center of media attention. He declined interviews. I'm not a miracle, he said. I'm just lucky. And I shouldn't have to be. He gave the video to Beth anyway. Sealed it in a drive. For someday, he told Hope. Steffi asked him if he'd consider a fresh start. Maybe away from all this. He shook his head. I have to stay. Too many people don't get second chances. I did. I won't waste it. And Grace? She didn't run. She stayed, faced the fallout, and told Liam the one truth she knew he needed most. You survived. And not because of me. In spite of me. The story of Liam Spencer's near-death and the surgery that never should have happened became one of the bold and the beautiful's most powerful arcs. Not because of scandal or love triangles or shock value, but because it was real, messy, human, and Liam's story isn't over. It's just beginning. Liam's hospital room slowly transformed from a sterile chamber of survival into a place of constant, quiet reckoning. He no longer needed machines to breathe for him, but every breath he took was heavy with the weight of what had happened. He hadn't just survived a surgery. He had survived a catastrophic mistake that could have ended his life, and almost did. His phone, which once held a final message to his daughter, now buzzed constantly with missed calls, texts, interview requests, even messages from strangers calling him a symbol of resilience. Liam wanted none of it. He shut the phone off and turned inward. I didn't beat anything, he told Hope. I just got lucky. Somebody screwed up, and I paid the price. I don't want to be anyone's inspiration. I just want to understand how the hell this happened. Hope stayed by his side, but the distance between them grew. She tried to distract him, tried to talk about Beth, about home, but Liam wasn't ready. I recorded a goodbye to our daughter, he reminded her. That doesn't go away just because I opened my eyes. Meanwhile, Grace faced the hospital board in a formal review. No cameras, no press. Just a panel of cold-eyed administrators and a mountain of medical reports. She laid out every step she took, every result she trusted, every hour she spent trying to make things right. I found the error before it was too late, she said. That doesn't make it okay. But it means something. Some wanted her license suspended. Others argued her actions in the final hour saved Liam's life. In the end, she was placed on probation, allowed to continue practicing under close supervision. It was a professional blow. But what hit harder was Liam's response. He asked to see her alone. She entered the room cautiously, not in a lab coat, just in plain clothes. No defenses. I'm not here to forgive you, Liam said. Not yet. Grace nodded. I understand. But I don't want you to disappear either. What happened to me, what almost happened, can't just be erased. So tell me, why did you go back and check the results? What made you second guess it? Grace looked him in the eyes. Because I had a feeling. Because something in me said it didn't add up. Because I kept seeing your daughter's face when you talked about her. And I knew if I didn't check again, I'd never sleep again. There was silence. Liam turned away. Then maybe we both got lucky. Outside the hospital, the media storm built into a frenzy. The Forresters and Logans tried to contain it, but reporters followed Liam's story like vultures. Someone leaked the video he'd recorded for Beth. It went viral in hours. Millions of views. Comments pouring in from parents, survivors, doctors. This man made me cry for an hour. This is what real courage looks like. Thank you for reminding us what matters. But Liam wasn't flattered. He was furious. They made a mistake, he snapped at Bill, who tried to spin it into a public relations win. Don't you dare turn this into a press release. This was my life. Bill, uncharacteristically quiet, nodded. You're right. I almost lost you. I don't know what else to do. Liam softened slightly. Just be my dad, not my manager. Steffi, watching the unraveling from her own corner, kept her distance. But not for long. One night, she visited Liam's room, sat beside him, and didn't speak for a full 5 minutes. When she finally did, it was direct. You almost died, and I realized. I still love you. Liam looked at her. The old emotions stirred, but something in him had changed. I don't think I know who I am anymore, he said. So how could I know who I love? Steffi nodded. Then let's start over. As parents. As survivors. Hope found them the next morning. She saw the closeness. She said nothing. But her heart cracked. Later, she told Brooke, I waited beside his bed every single night, and now he's slipping back to her. Brooke tried to console her. You both went through trauma. It'll settle. He loves you. But Hope wasn't sure anymore. Or maybe he just loved who I was before. Days turned into weeks. Liam was discharged, with strict therapy protocols and a long road ahead. He refused to return to the Cliff House or the cabin. Instead, he moved into a modest rental near the beach. Alone. Steffi brought Kelly for visits. Hope brought Beth. They never overlapped. And through it all, Liam focused not on healing relationships, but on understanding what survival meant. He attended group therapy sessions. He started writing in a journal. He watched the video he made for Beth, then recorded a new one. Hi, sweetheart. I'm still here. I don't know why, but I'm trying to figure it out. One evening, Grace showed up at his door, holding a small envelope. I found out who caused the data error, she said. It wasn't just a system failure. Someone altered the results. Liam's eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? The tech who ran your scan was bribed, she said. There was pressure to clear a backlog of patients. Yours got flagged for expedited surgery by mistake, and instead of reporting it, he pushed it through. Liam sat down slowly. So someone nearly killed me to save time on paperwork? Grace nodded. The hospital is launching a legal investigation. It could go deeper. This opened a new chapter. Bill got involved, of course. We sue them to hell and back, he said. We go scorched earth. But Liam hesitated. What if I use it to make real change? He considered starting a foundation. A watchdog group. Something that exposed flaws in hospital systems. Something that mattered. He met with victims of malpractice. He told his story on his terms. Not to become famous, but to make noise. The triangle with Hope and Steffi simmered, but the real tension shifted to a new battlefield. Purpose. Identity. Redemption. Grace began consulting for other hospitals. Hope refocused on Beth. Steffi poured herself into work and co-parenting. And Liam? Liam began to live. Not as a hero. Not as a symbol. But as a man who was supposed to die and didn't. The road ahead isn't simple. It's filled with unresolved pain, shifting loyalties, and the lingering question of why things happened the way they did. But the bold and the beautiful has made one thing clear. Liam Spencer is no longer caught between women. He's caught between the past that nearly ended him and the future he has to choose. And the story is just getting started.